Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Chum here, and today we have a brand new update for the Forbidden/Limited list in Duel Links, as well as some skill rebalancing. So today, I'm going to break down exactly what the changes mean for the metagame. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. And I think we'll start off with the Forbidden cards, or the /Forbidden Limited list. So looking at the cards, are going to be Forbidden/Limited as of the 22nd of October, which is actually very, very soon. This is probably the fastest a Forbidden/Limited list has actually been put into place, but it's happening very quickly. You guys can see the limited cards, so only one card from the limited list in your deck. We have two new additions, Vision Hero Vion and Amazoness Onslaught, and I believe that's the only two. Yes, that is. And these two Forbidden/Limits mean so much for the game. Amazoness Onslaught down to 1 means that it's going to be very, very easy to get rid of and punch through Amazoness. Like, back when they had 3, they were very powerful because it was super consistent and they had so many ways to get the card back. At 2, it was less consistent, and once the 2 were banished, they were pretty much screwed. However, now that there's only one copy, Amazoness is going to get shut down as soon as the first Amazoness Onslaught leaves the field, which isn't that difficult. It's almost as if just hitting it with a Cosmic Cyclone, or even the brand new Blue Eyes monster, Dragon Spirit of White, that banishes back row. Hitting it with one of those is going to pretty much end the game for the Amazoness player. Sure, they can stall through with the fact that their queen doesn't get destroyed by battle, or doesn't let any of your Amazoness get destroyed by battle, but there are so many ways to get around that. You can enemy controller and take it so the other monsters can be destroyed. You can do so many different things. You could even, let's say, negate the effect with Chalice and then attack through everything. Like, there are ways to get the thing off the board, and without Amazoness Onslaught, with it at 1, they're going to have a really difficult time. And the fact that, like, now that it gets banished, there is no backup. There is no way back. When it got banished before, you would use maybe an Amazoness Willpower, or you'd just normal summon another copy of your Amazoness Princess to bring back your second copy of Onslaught, so that you'd be able to then, you know, keep your banishing protection up. But now, that's going away. As for the next one, we have Vision Hero Vion. The reason this card is being limited is because it allows, like it says, Destiny Heroes to be highly flexible. Using this card, you're actually able to just straight away send a militia to the graveyard and special summon other militias. It's a very big +1. You could then do other things in the graveyard in order to either banish another Destiny hero to search for a polymerization. Like, this card was actually a really great starter card for the deck, and putting it down to 1 is actually pretty important, I reckon, for nerfing Destiny heroes. I don't think they were ever too powerful, but I definitely think, like it says, it gave Destiny heroes options. If you normal summon Vion, you could very easily go for a fusion. You could very easily go plus on Mass Change. Like, there's so much that you could do with this deck. If you summoned Vion, you could go any route you wanted, and Vion was a starter card in every sense of the word. So limiting it to 1 means that, again, it's going to be less likely that you're going to be able to take any route. You're going to have to look at your hand and actually think about it, rather than just being I normal summon Vion. I definitely like the changes. I'm glad it's not limited to 2. That being, of course, if it was limited to 2, you wouldn't be able to use it in combination with Destiny Hero Celestial, who is a very important player in the Destiny Hero deck. So I know it sucks having Vion at 1, but it's better than having to choose between Celestial and Vion, so I'm happy with that. As for Amazoness, I think this is a very, very, very rough hit. I don't know if Amazoness will be able to pull through. They might honestly just be straight out of the meta right now because of the fact that losing one Amazoness Onslaught is very easy. It can happen very quickly, and not having a second one is going to be really, really dangerous for them. Either way, let's move on down to the semi-limited list of cards that you can only have 2 copies of from the entire list. And you guys can see it's a pretty lengthy list. We have at the top Amazoness Princess, Wiz Sage for Hire, Hate Trunade, and Treacherous Trap Hole. Absolutely crazy in my opinion. Absolutely crazy indeed. Now, Amazoness Princess being semi-limited is not too bad. The deck doesn't have a lot of semi-limited cards in it. Initially, of course, it did have Amazoness Onslaught, but now that Amazoness Onslaught is down to 1, Princess and Onslaught can obviously be used in the same deck. If they weren't, that'd be so stupid. But the fact that they've both been dropped down by 1 copy means before you could have 5 cards in your whole deck that would either be Onslaught itself or Search Onslaught. Now you have 3. The consistency of Amazoness has dropped immensely, and I gotta say, that is insane. I think no deck has ever been hit harder. Even Cyber Angels are more okay than Amazoness might be right now. People probably will find a way to make them relevant again, but the fact that you have 1 copy of your golden card, your survival card, your ace card, and once that thing's gone, there's next to no way to bring it back. Very, very, very rough. As for Wiz Sage for Hire, there were a lot of cheese decks that came with this card. Of course, this card was amazing because it had a negate, and if I'm not mistaken, let me double check. Is this negate actually once per turn? It is. Okay, it's a hard once per turn, so your opponent cannot use this effect at any given time. Even if they have 3 Wiz, they can only use it once per turn. But still, Wiz Sage for Hire is a very dangerous card. I think the big thing about hitting this at 2 is actually the fact that Donpa is also at 2. Meaning that if you want to have 2 Wiz Sage for Hire, you can't have 2 Donpa. And if you want to have Donpa, you can't have 2 Wiz Sage for Hire. So that's going to be where the trouble kicks in. Now, I think that I'm probably going to end up running 1-1, which means you're going to have 1 copy of Donpa, 1 copy of Wiz Sage for Hire, and 1 copy of Dyna because he's limited to 1. And that's going to be difficult because, as you guys know, if any of your cards are limited, you can only have 2 of them, or 1 of them, depending on how they're limited. So you can't have 2 copies of Sage and 2 copies of Donpa because they're both semi-limited. And the way it works is different with the TCG. It's the entire pool of cards. You can only have 2 semi-limited cards total. Either way, I think it's a pretty big hit. I think dropping that consistency down is going to be a problem for Hires. But the fact that they do have such a powerful searcher in Beat means that I don't think they're going to struggle too much, and I definitely think they're going to stay near the top of the meta. Either way, moving on to our next card, we have Hey Trunade. This card, as it says, has the potential to end duels immediately. A lot of decks use back row in this day and age, and the fact that Trunade can just throw them all away and then just attack through for game is kind of ridiculous. I always thought the card was very powerful. I didn't think it would get semi-limited because it being semi-limited, it shuts out other options for you. You can no longer run Econ and Hey Trunade, which is literally what I've been doing in my previous videos with my Blue Eyes deck, so I'm definitely going to have to change things up there, but I think it's fitting. This card, like it says, could end duels too quickly. You could literally play at the start of your turn and just be like, uh-oh, game over for you now, and I think it was a bit rough. I think the fact that we still have anti-magic arrows is good. Those two play very similar roles, but Hey Trunade is that little bit more powerful because your opponent doesn't have the chance to use their cards during your main phase. I'm okay with the limit. I think it's not going to affect it too much because it is just a staple card, and people will be able to build their staples the way they want them to anyway. However, of course, this does lock this card out from other powerful decks that use semi-limited cards, such as Destiny Heroes for Hire and Amazonas, which I think is fair. Putting things at semi-limit of 2, most cards like staples you're not going to use at more copies than 2, and having such powerful staples limited in this way means that the more powerful decks don't get to take advantage of it, while the lesser decks that do need these powerful staples do get to take advantage of it. So I think it's a fair way to limit stuff, and I think it's a fair way to balance the game. Then moving on to the final card, we have Treacherous Trap Hole. Now this card is infamous. Absolutely infamous. As you guys know, this card, you flip it face up, you destroy 2 monsters on the field. It's literally a 2-for-1, and the only thing that really hinders it is the fact that if you have another trap card in graveyard, you can't use this, but it didn't really care that much. Treacherous Trap Hole never really cared. You can just run 1 copy of it, and every time you see it, as it says in the description, it almost guarantees a win. I played a duel yesterday with I played a duel today when I was recording the Blue Eyes deck, and I barely won a duel after getting Treacherous Trap Hole, and that's just because the deck has really good recovery. This card hitting almost any deck is an instant win, and it's absolutely ridiculous, especially since the fact that this trap card obviously stops players from using trap cards. I can't tell you how many times that I have actually gone and said, I'm not going to use any trap cards, I'm only going to use spells just so I can run Treacherous. And I think the fact that this is getting semi-limited is good. Again, as I mentioned, because it is semi-limited, For Hires can't use it, Amazonas, which obviously never used it, cannot use it, and I think most importantly, Destiny Heroes can't use it. That deck doesn't use trap cards, and the fact that they could be so powerful with Treacherous was ridiculous, and I think having this card in the semi-limited list is exactly where it needs to be. You don't want to see this card in combination with other powerful cards, or else the deck is going to be too strong, and I think that having this, in all honesty, degenerate card of the game has taken it aback a lot. I really did not like seeing Treacherous Trap Hole. No one sees that and says, yay, Treacherous Trap Hole, unless it's you drawing the card. Like, it really ruins the time for your opponent, and it can turn a duel around like that, and I definitely am so glad to see it limited. Again, because this card is in this pool, you're not going to see it very often in high tiers of play unless someone's using a very unique deck, and the idea that using a very unique deck that hasn't been hit on the ban list at all allows you to use cards like Treacherous and Enemy Controller and Hey Trunade, I think is really cool. it brings the higher tier of decks down a notch and brings the lower tier of decks up a notch to make a more balanced playing field, which is exactly what Konami is going for. I think they did a very good job with this ban list. Either way, that's everything in here. You guys can just see the rest of it is about the, history of the Forbidden Limited list and whatnot. Let's start talking about the skill rebalancing, which I also love. So the two skills that are being rebalanced is Cyber Style and Life Cost 0. As you guys know, Cyber Style is a skill that when you have less than 4,000 life points or less than 3,000 life points, you can use it to special summon one Proto Cyber Dragon for every 1,000 life points you are below 4,000. So let's say you're at 1,000 life points, you get 3 Proto Cyber Dragons. Anyway, the reason the skill is being rebalanced is because it was used way too much outside of Cyber Dragon decks. Seriously, this skill was insane. It was able to flood your field with 3 monsters, and it could do incredible things. It was able to be tributed for god cards, just tributed for anything, to be honest. It was able to just give you so much advantage, let you use it for synchro material, let you use it for summoning big monsters. I think the fact that they limited this is super key. Like, you can still do fun stuff with 3 of a kind. These cards can still attack. They're still monsters on the field. They're just limited in the way that you can use them to make bigger plays, and I really love that. Because I definitely did not like seeing Cyber Style everywhere, and not to mention the fact that building a deck without Cyber Style felt like you were missing out, especially if you had any tribute monsters at all. You're just like, why don't I just run Cyber Style, so if I brick, I can tribute my Cyber Dragons to summon out and unbrick my hand. And I think the fact that this opportunity is being removed is incredible. Now Cyber Style will most likely be used solely for Cyber Dragon builds or other fusion builds, which I think is good, and of course the 3 of a kind build as well, which I think is really fun. It can still happen, so I think that's amazing. Anyway, moving on to the more important hit in my opinion, just because it is super degenerate, we have Life Cost 0. Now this skill, of course, has seen absurd amounts of use across Cyberstein, and as I mentioned here, this skill let you, of course, with Cyberstein, just pay life points and keep summoning monsters from your extra deck, and the amount of monsters they've been adding to the game that can be summoned by Cyberstein really make this deck powerful. If they can pull this combo off, it's almost impossible for them to lose. Of course, the deck is inconsistent, and that's why it isn't actually, amongst the top meta decks, but it's still so degenerate that Konami wants it removed, and I agree with it. It's literally just summon one card, keep, rolling dice until you win, effectively, because you can keep using your Gatling Dragon and popping everything on the field, and then popping the Gatling Dragon so you have enough space to summon and pop off with another Gatling Dragon. Cyberstein was degenerate, and now they've changed it so that Life Cost 0, I'll scroll down here so you guys can actually read the updated version of the skills. And now with the changes they made to Life Cost 0, you can only use the effect once per duel. And what that means is you can only have a free effect activation once. Meaning that if you're going to play the Cyberstein build, you're not going to be able to summon multiple Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragons or multiple Gatling Dragons. You can only go off with one fusion monster, which definitely brings the deck down, honestly, to maybe a 0. I don't think the deck's going to be played at all, because what's one Blue Eyes Ultimate or one Gatling Dragon going to do for you? Nothing much. Not to mention the effect can only be used once per duel, meaning literally, period. Not just once per turn, once per duel. You activate the effect, you get your one free effect activation, and that's it. Either way, guys, that is going to be it for this Forbidden and Limited list, I guess, PvP balancing shenanigans. I think that they did really, really well. I think Konami's balancing of the cards and whatnot make the decks really balanced. I think that Amazonas might have gotten hit a little bit too hard. I think that there is no real way with the card system to make Amazonas in the perfect place that I would like them to be, but I still think they got hit way too hard. As for the skills and whatnot, I think the skills are great. I definitely think Cyberstar was too overused. A while back they nerfed Restart and Balance because they were super generic, and they didn't want everyone using the same skills. And Cyberstar was one of those generic skills that could just be used in almost any deck and give you lots of advantage. Literally +3 cards, that's a lot of advantage. Otherwise, guys, this breakdown of the latest Forbidden Limited list and skill rebalancing has gone on way too long, so I'm going to end things off here. But what I want you to do is, first of all, let me know in the comment section below what you think of these changes, what you would have changed yourself, what other cards you think might be problematic and need to be balanced, and what other cards do you think should be off the ban list. I'm talking about Champion's Vigilance. That card does no longer deserve to be there. It is definitely not that broken anymore. So I'd love to see that off the ban list, but who knows what will happen. And of course, guys, make sure you hit that like button as well if you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed hearing my breakdown of exactly what I think these changes are going to make to the game and whether or not they're good changes or bad changes. I'd love to hear what you guys think. I'd love to get some feedback on this kind of video. Either way, once again, I want to thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.